Reverend Vaughn.
Reverend John Vaughn, Ebenezer Baptist Church. I'm sorry, my camera is giving me trouble. And co-sponsor of the Multi-Faith Initiative and Mass Incarceration.
And I'm George Friday. I'm in Gastonia, North Carolina. I am consultant for SARN and the person who facilitating this call. During the parts of the agenda where y'all are having conversations, generally there's 3 minutes each for y'all speaking. When you've gone 2 minutes, I will give you the 1 minute warning so that you know how much time you have there. And on to an update on the 2023 EMI conference. Does that start with you, Pastor Reverend Vaughn?
Yes, George, if you could take the agenda down, since I think we have a grasp of it so we can see each other. And I will turn on my video, even though I'm feeling a bit hag-like today, but I'll turn it on anyway.
So I'm not, I don't have too much to add for the conference, but it is set for it looks like we're going to start Monday evening of King Weekend. Save the dates will be going out. We are, so I think plans are moving forward. We've got invites out to plenary speakers. So all that is moving forward. The other thing I'll say in a related is if you are interested and available, we're going to do a conversation among those in Georgia working on some of the EMI work here at Ebenezer on the 4th for a luncheon. So if you want to come on up for lunch on the 4th, we will host folks here at Ebenezer to really talk about the EMI Georgia, the current state of the EMI Georgia work and how we can continue supportive of other work that's going on.
Pastor Vaughn, are you talking about the 4th of May?
4th of May, yep, just a few weeks.
That's not far.
It's not far. We decided last week that we wanted to pull this together.
So it's going to be at Ebenezer.
Yes.
So we're talking free lunch.
We're talking free lunch.
And so what time do we need to be there?
12 o'clock.
Okay. Well, I will plan to drive up.
Great. But you will get formal invites so that you can RSVP. But please get it on your calendar.
Oh, definitely.
And Pastor Chester, if it works for you, we'd love to have you join us also.
Yeah, I'll plan to maybe even spend the night in Atlanta. So that sounds great. Pastor Chester, have you gotten any response from Pastor Flakes? Well, it's not a bad thing to end the meeting early because George had allotted 15 or was it 10 minutes for this, right?
Yes, ma'am, 10 minutes.
Well, that puts us right at time because we got started late. So Pastor Chester, you need to unmute yourself because you're next on the agenda.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. So as of today, the IMA lead partner or lead sponsor is planning to do an EMI conference here in Columbus, Georgia. We have been in conversation with Holy Chapel CME Church, which is in downtown Columbus in the heart of the Liberty District, to host it at their annex, which would provide us with not only general assembly space, but also breakout room space. And also if we decided, to serve, I guess, breakfast or lunch we can do all that in that one building. The only question I had is timing, and also Pastor Vaughn, if there's like a, for lack of a better word, a speakers list that you all have used that we could reach out to come down to Columbus and be presenters for that day.
I don't necessarily have a speakers list per se, but I certainly can put something together for you.
Okay.
You know, so let me know what you're looking for, and
Okay.
I can, so we have obviously relationships with folks that are directly impacted by mass incarceration, individuals, families, certainly some of the faith leaders, we've got Jewish, Christian, Muslim, so give me a feel for what you're looking for, and I can give you a list of some potential people.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Well, Pastor Chester, it was my understanding that this would be Columbus-based and Columbus-oriented, so that we could draw in the faith community locally for participation in the EMI conference at Ebenezer in Atlanta. So it's kind of like midway point to Ebenezer.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
so,
at least-
if you could tell me what date you had in mind potentially.
Yes, ma'am. We were looking at probably October.
Oh, that late?
Or we need to do it earlier? We can.
Absolutely earlier,
Okay.
because the idea is to get people ready to go to Ebenezer in January. And the main work that we want to do is around expungement. There is a huge call for expungement.
Okay.
So,
let's start with the date then. So if October is too late, what are we talking about? August, July?
yeah, most folks take the time off between June, July, and so people start gearing back up in August. So I
Okay.
think August is the perfect month when schools are back in and people are really generally back to work. So if we look at August for a potential day, you're looking at a one-day conference on a Saturday. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, ma'am. Either a Friday or a Saturday.
Okay. Well, now if you could say, I made those 15 copies of the expungement brochures for you. Can you name the churches
Well,
that
could we do the dates first, and then I can give you that list?
well, don't you have to check with Holsey?
I mean, well, at least for us to come up with the date here.
Oh, okay.
To shoot for it. I'm thinking maybe the either the 26th or the 27th, or is that too late in August?
Well, I was thinking the 19th, 20th, or the 26th, 27th. So if you could offer those 4 dates, this Friday, Saturday of those 2 weeks. So 19th, 20th, or 26th, 27th.
Okay.
So that would be good because that gives us enough time to plan. And as Pastor Flakes had quite a few ideas for what could happen because the Criminal Justice Reform Summit that we did in October of 2020, we had Richard Jesse's participation, and he considers himself a kind of expert around some of these issues in criminal justice, particularly around issues of prison labor and slave labor and other stuff that he's been fighting to end here for quite some time. So if you could tell us about some of the other pastors that you reached out to with the expungement booklets. Who did you give those booklets to?
Yes, ma'am. So I've given it to Pastor LaVisha Williams with St. James CME, also Pastor Chris Abernathy with True Vine Ministries here in town, Pastor James Gant at Corinth. Also, who else was there? I have to give Hewling and Franklin theirs. And so I know I've touched 4 people to give them theirs. I think, yeah, 4 people to give them theirs at this point.
Well, I would say Valerie Thompson. Is she still the pastor at Revelation?
Yes, ma'am.
Is she active with the IMA?
Yes, ma'am. I've been giving them to people as I've seen them. And
Okay,
we
well, she would be good. And of course, Pastor Flakes already has his, and I gave it out to Pastor Reggie at South Columbus United Methodist Church, so we can add him to the list. And so I guess when the IMA meets on the first Friday of May, then we can begin to kind of pull everything together. Because when you say Pastor Franklin, you're talking about, is her first name Andrea?
Yes, ma'am.
So where do matters stand with Sister Monica Spencer? Because she's supposed to be the EMI person representing the process here. Were you able
I
to
I spoke with her actually last week. So she's part of it. She's also got another full-time job, and the EMI stuff is kind of she's doing on as a volunteer. So I know that she's wants to be supportive, engaged, and so just continue to keep in communication with her. But she is on board.
But did she ever get her notebook?
Yes, she did. She did say she got it.
Okay, well, that's great. Thank you, Pastor Chester, for making sure she got the notebook.
Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
I think this is really a great start. So if we could move it up to the August weekends, and so whichever weekend you choose, but one of the key speakers I think we would want to use from out of town, which would be kind of drawing in some of the Alabama folks, would be Danny Carr. He is the Jefferson County DA, and he's in his 40s, and he is really dynamic. So he participated in the Criminal Justice Conference, and Pastor Flakes developed a relationship with him around the issue of reform at the prosecutor's level. So no cash bail. So they have no cash bail operating in Jefferson County, and it's been going on for a very long time. We're still trying to get there in Muskogee County. So those are some of the reforms that we would talk about. And of course, we have a what's it called? Reentry Commission in Muskogee County. And we would certainly want them to participate in the conference. And so this will be great timing because the elections will be over, and possibly even the runoff elections would be over. We already know that we have a new DA, so there's no way we can do a conference without Stacey Jackson. So those are the folks locally that I see fully participating, because we're looking to lift up Columbus and the Columbus participation as the second largest city in Georgia. And we'll get to Atlanta in time enough. And so we have our own thing to do here in Columbus. So I would say when we get to Atlanta in Ebenezer in January, that will be soon enough. But I don't think we need help from Ebenezer at this point for the Columbus conference. That's my thinking based on what I was hearing from Pastor Flakes the last time we met.
Yeah, so our thought, at least my thought pattern was trying to at least make sure that we marry the two, since the EMI is originated out of Atlanta. At least there be someone that give us the context of how this was birthed, why it was birthed, and why the coalition is moving even outside of Atlanta.
Well, the purpose of providing you, Pastor Flakes, and Sister Monica with the notebooks is because you have everything that happened in Atlanta in 2019, and really nothing much has happened since then, even though Sister Monica says that she's been representing the process for quite some time. I hope you don't mind me speaking frankly, but I was at the conference in Atlanta, and I was the only person there from Columbus. And in talking with people at Ebenezer before Pastor Vaughn got there, not a lot has been done on the process. But I've noticed in the last year or so, the Jewish Temple and some other entities in Atlanta have been holding these kind of mini webinars. But we're kind of getting restarted. So when the conference happens in January of 2023, we'll be getting restarted, in my view, because between 2019 and now, and the pandemic having its impact, nothing much has been happening. So there's a lot of work that's been done in Columbus, Pastor Chester, around the issue of criminal justice reform, but framing it as ending mass incarceration started at Ebenezer. It's a movement that's been going on long before the conference at Ebenezer. So Ebenezer marked the faith-based entry into the movement, but the movement of ending mass incarceration, I've been a part of that for over a decade. So
Point well.
We can, but I do think there actually has been there have been some things that have happened. And so I could see, I mean, I understand what you're saying, Sister Teresa, but I also think it'd be good to have, one of us can talk about what has happened over the last couple of years, because actually there's some good progress both at the national and the regional level. Now, a progress that we've got to really build on and we've got to do better at, but we've got some, so that we can give some update. So I'd be glad to kind of figure out who from our team could help do that. And it's connect, and it's a good way to help us connect the two.
Well, remind me, Pastor Vaughn, when did you start at Ebenezer?
I started in February 2020.
Okay. So, well, perhaps we can talk a little bit because I'm from Atlanta and I know quite a few people at Ebenezer. And so part of the discussion I was having with people at Ebenezer was about what happened between the conference and Pastor Warnock running for the US Senate and what kind of didn't happen.
And so we can, and I can certainly talk to, so I can certainly talk to, I can talk to some of what's happened in the last couple of years. I can talk about some of the stuff that we're beginning to better communicate internally. So, there have been strengths and weaknesses to, but I do want you to know that there have been some things that are going on, and I think it'd be good just to, so we level set for everybody.
Well, as an organizer, I have a tendency to speak completely transparently in the spirit of accountability. And the principle that George and I know that the Southern Anti-Racism Network operates on is a principle we call ACT: accountability, consistency, transparency. So that's kind of what I'm aiming for in this process, because it's too important. So if you don't have time to work on it, so that's kind of what I was trying to find out from Sister Monica. So if she is liaison here, then shouldn't we be able to get this kind of information from her, because she actually lives in Columbus and she's our designated liaison. So I am all about that level of accountability.
Well, I appreciate that. And and there are some growing areas. So let us call it some growing areas. So we're going to get better at this. So.
Well, yes, and I think the way we get better is that we speak frankly with each other. And so
I appreciate that. And
well,
I appreciate that. And I would want nothing less than that. And I want you to know, that it is, we hear that we've got to do some things a little better. And I think it's good to talk about, to give some sense of where some things are and where we have to be better. So I think
when we set our next meeting, perhaps we can draw in a couple of more people, because I see this as a marriage, so to speak, between the faith-based community and the activist community. So my part of it is the activist community. So there are some other people that I would like to draw into the conversation who are not necessarily faith-based. So when we do our next meeting in May, after May 4th, then we can see how we're gonna build the Columbus conference. That's a kind of joint connection between the IMA and those of us in the larger part of the community who have been doing EMI work for a while, who aren't necessarily in a particular church. So I see that marriage taking place, and that was one of the weaknesses of the EMI conference in 2019. And I was there and I saw it. So I do know what needs to happen in order for stuff to really be moved, because most Black people are in some kind of faith tradition. So it is important to get Black people involved in a way that is really reflective of our liberation theology.
I think Pastor Flakes is joining y'all.
Well, that's great. Good timing. Well, hello, Pastor Flakes. You're having another busy day, I see. Pastor Flakes, speak.
Yes, ma'am. How you all doing? Sorry for my tardiness.
Look at him. He's on the move. Well,
keep me on the move.
George, where are we on the agenda? Because we do have a hard stop at 3, and I think it's about 2:30 now, right?
Yeah, it's about 2:36. Y'all are about 4 minutes into the Fannie Lou Hamer Human Rights Conference conversation. And that's where you are. You bit over
well,
on this piece, just a few minutes over.
Well, just because I know our dear brother, Pastor Flakes, is on the move. So Pastor Flakes, what we were discussing before you joined us was about Columbus and the IMA conference date. And so we're proposing that the Holsey Chapel, which Pastor Chester has secured, that the date would be either the weekends of August 19th, 20th, or August 27th, 26th, 27th. So can you look at your calendar to see if you have any conflict with those two dates, those two weekends?
I will ask Georgia.
Okay.
Georgia will let me know and we'll definitely get back. But I'm not hold it up whatsoever.
Well, just so you know, Georgia and I are having lunch at Bonefish on Friday. Yeah, so we're gonna have a great time. I'll make sure that she knows a few things about what we're talking about. And also, Jewel did get in touch with Danita. So I'm supposed to sign that paperwork that hopefully Jewel told you about, right?
She did, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm supposed to take care of that today with Danita. So the information should be sent to the church soon. So it's great to see you.
Great.
And
so
we should go on to my quick update about the Fannie Lou Hamer branch conference, which I've asked all of you pastors to play a role in the EMI workshop part of it, which is going to be a big part of the conference. So it kind of gets people really, really ready for January at Ebenezer. So the bad news is our fundraising primary foundation declined to support the conference. So there is a possibility that we will be doing the conference virtually in December. December 10th is still the date, is still a one-day conference. So it may mean that we would, if we did the hotel, I will renegotiate the contract with the hotel based on this different budget. But I would still like to do the event in person at the hotel, and I could see what I can renegotiate. So we would be doing fewer sleeping rooms, and we would do the one-day conference, and people will pay a registration fee of $50 each, which would basically cover the food. So it could still be a one-day conference in person where a significant part of it will be paid through registrations. So that's what we're looking at now, still doing it at the Sonesta Hotel in person, but it will be a different situation. People who have hotel rooms may have to pay for their own hotel rooms. But since it's not that far from Atlanta, then people from Atlanta who are participating can simply drive up the morning of and get there by 8 or 8:30 that morning. So this is something we will discuss, but I would have to sign the contract probably by August. So I have to have the money in the bank by August. And that's what George and I are working on. So we will probably start the registrations in August. But we need to have a certain amount of money in the bank. And 100 people at $50 each will give us $5,000. So that should be getting us close to halfway to paying for the conference. So my job is to raise $5,000 between now and August, when I'm comfortable signing a contract with the hotel. So all of the people who are coming to speak, etc., like Senator Sanford Bishop, I will see him tomorrow morning at an Urban League event. So getting him to get some of the members of the Congressional Black Caucus to show up for the opening panel is something I will ask him tomorrow morning when I see him. So that's where things stand with the Fannie Lou Hamer Second Annual Human Rights Conference. I'm working on it. So George, if there are any questions, I can answer them. Unmute yourself, George, so you can finish facilitating.
So are there any questions, comments, recommendations based on what Teresa just shared? Not from Reverend John Vaughn. No? All right then.
Well, let me say this. I really want to thank Pastor Vaughn for the funding possibilities he provided with identifying the Southern Partners Fund, the Peace Development Fund, and the Circle of Justice Innovation. I have made contact with the Circle of Justice Innovation. I already know folks at Southern Partners, as does George, and we know folks at Peace Development Fund. So the beauty of the Circle of Justice Innovation is that they have this rolling thing where they're constantly taking in proposals and giving answers. So between now and December, they're doing that. So what I'm asking them, if we sent them an application for basically $5,000 in May, how soon would we hear from them? And so those are the possibilities, thanks to Pastor Vaughn, that we have for funding that could assist in what we're trying to do. Because Pastor Vaughn has a background in philanthropy, I found out by accident. And so Pastor Vaughn, did you have something more you wanted to add? But we thank you for helping
You're
us.
welcome. You're welcome. Nothing more to add.
Well, thank you. So George, where are
Our
we
next
now?
item is, what are we doing now on EMI? What are we doing now on EMI? We've got about 10 minutes for that, a little bit more than 10 minutes.
Well, I'll start by saying the reason I mentioned the Fannie Lou Hamer branch of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, which is based here in Columbus. And there are quite a few people that many of you know. Danita Gibson Lloyd is a member of the steering committee. Deidre Whittlesey, who works with DFACS, is a member of the steering committee of the branch. And Destiny Wallace, who is a parent who works with the SPICE program, is on the steering committee of the Fannie Lou Hamer branch of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. George and I are both very active in the national leadership of WILF. And WILF has a committee or subcommittee called Ending Mass Incarceration and the Death Penalty. I'm the convener of that subcommittee. It's a national subcommittee for members of WILF only, which is, as it implies, an organization of women peacemakers. So that committee meets monthly, and we have speakers there. Uh, um, and Pastor Vaughn, I believe you spoke to the committee recently. Am I remembering correctly?
Yes.
Great. And so our speaker earlier this month was someone who is a Catholic worker who will very much be interested in participating in the EMI conference because he has fought against the death penalty and lynchings in North Carolina for quite some time as a Catholic worker. And as you know, the Catholic Church is very much against the death penalty. When we save a life in the United States from the death penalty, the Vatican rings the bells. So it is very important that our friend Patrick O'Neill, who recently spent 12 months in a federal prison for putting his body on the line to stop nuclear weapons at the Trident facility. And so these are the faith-based folks who are involved with that. So Pastor Bond is saying he needs to hop off. But nevertheless, that's what we're doing now. George and I is participating in what we call the Advancing Human Rights Committee of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, and the subcommittee on ending mass incarceration and the death penalty. So somewhere down the line, I'll be asking you, Pastor Flakes and Pastor Chester, to speak at our subcommittee meetings. They are usually held on the second, I believe it's the second Monday of the month. So the May subcommittee meeting, let me find it. George, I believe that date is going to be May 9th. George usually sets up these meetings. So George, are you looking at your calendar? Yes, the Ending Mass Incarceration and the Death Penalty Zoom meeting of WILT will be May 9th at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So what we usually do, you'll be speaking to members of WILT across a broad geographic area. And it will probably be a good time to let people know about the work that's being done in Columbus, because they've seen the recording of one of our meetings, I believe. Is that, oh no, they saw the recording of the meeting where Pastor Vaughn spoke. Help me out, George.
Yes, we did send that recording. It was posted. I believe we also posted the recording of Patrick speaking, but only to the people that were on the Zoom, not to the listserv. I don't think I posted, I did post Patrick's to the listserv and the Black Liberation Caucus list and everyone who was in the meeting.
See, part of what we have inside of WILF, which is a 107-year-old organization, pastors. So they were founded in 1915 to stop the First World War. And I've been involved with them since the 80s. And it's an overwhelmingly elderly white women's organization. And what George and I have been doing over the past year is recruiting Black women in the South to build branches. And now with the Ukraine-Russia conflict, it's especially important that we are fully engaged in peace and no possible use of nuclear weapons and the other social justice issues. So if you can tell me if the two of you or either one of you might be available to speak to our subcommittee on May 9th at 2 p.m.
I'll have to.
I should, yeah, I should be available.
Who's speaking?
Both folks were speaking.
Oh, so you
Um,
say you both will be available.
I'll have to get back to your email, whether I am or not.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so
it sounds like Pastor Chester would be available as
Right.
yes, ma'am. So Ms. Elamine, I don't want to, hover over this at any, but now this is a predominantly women's organization, correct? Or it is an all women's organization, right?
well, we welcome men. And so because it was started by women, we're not biased against the leadership of men who are working on the issues we work on, which is why we asked Pastor Bond to speak, because of what Ebenezer is doing around this subject matter. And because of what you're doing as leader of the IMA around this subject matter, you would be a perfect person to speak to us about what's happening in Columbus. And I invite you to join the Fannie Lou Hamer branch of WILF because Patrick O'Neill, who spoke this month, he immediately joined the Triangle branch of WILF because he lives in Garner, North Carolina. So we would welcome you as a member of the Fannie Lou Hamer branch, and I will introduce you as someone who works with the efforts of the Fannie Lou Hamer branch. So don't be shy about being one of our brothers because we welcome of the participation of men. So it would be great. And you're one of the young dynamic pastors in Columbus who holds an important role as president of the IMA, and you're organizing this conference in August. So that's what you could talk about.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Well, so that
y'all need
sounds.
to, it's about time to shift. If you have any closing more comments on what are you doing now on EMI, and then set your next meeting.
Well, George, I think in reviewing what has been said so far, it's very clear what Pastor Chester is doing on EMI. And so for Pastor Flakes, I know that 4th Street Baptist Church does a lot on EMI on an ongoing basis. So perhaps he can take a few minutes to say what's going on lately at 4th Street Baptist Church on EMI.
Well, thank you so very much, Ms. Elamine, and to all who are here. We're just resuming our recovery, re-entry. We have Brother Mack, who's got 30 years of law enforcement, and Brother Campbell just retired as a supervising parole officer. So we are in partnership with a 501c3 organization out of Atlanta called Caring for Others, who just basically had a global conference on poverty. And so we attended that at the Porsche headquarters. And so we're really trying to get that. Because of the pandemic, we had to have a lot of restriction in terms of gathering. So we're kind of reorganizing that, but we are moving forward with our reentry for returned citizens coming back into Columbus.
Well, that sounds fantastic. Well, George, I think we should probably set the May meeting, we should let Pastor Flakes know that Ebenezer is providing free lunch on May 4th for this is what's going on with the EMI work. So he invited us to come to Atlanta on May 4th at noon for a special free lunch at Ebenezer. And I can tell you, they know how to do free lunch. So I plan to drive up for that. And I'm sure it'll be fabulous. So if the two of you can, you should definitely get there. And I would suggest that you plan to arrive around 11:30. As big as it is, the parking is always a hassle. And so I will get there early enough to get one of the handicap spaces. But parking is a hassle. So you may want to get there a few minutes early. But I'm sure Pastor Flakes, you lived in Atlanta, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am.
So you know all about the hassle of parking around Auburn Avenue and Jackson Street and Ebenezer Church. And because it is a national park, the park rangers are not the kindest people in the world. They hassle the homeless, and I fight with the national park rangers every time I go to town. So I'll get there early enough so I won't have to be in a struggle. So May 4th, noon at Ebenezer in Atlanta. And it was great to have good representation from Atlanta. It is a free lunch. And he said he would send us an invite, but I would say I'd like to see Sister Monica, the two of you and I there. So since we're working together to make sure that Columbus is well represented in the work of EMI going forward. So I'm sure the Jewish temples and the other folks are going to be there pretty strong. So there's a lot going on in Atlanta with a kind of really supportive Jewish presence in the EMI work. That's what I've been noticing. And so.
Are y'all ready to set your next date?
Well, yes, let's look at
A
May.
month from today is the 17th.
Well, that's a Tuesday, and I'm completely open. So does that work?
That's good for me.
Wonderful. So can we do our usual 2 p.m.?
That sounds good. Perfect.
We've
So
learned now
we'll
that
let-
Pastor Flakes has to talk to Georgia before confirming. So I see you nodding your head.
I've got
Okay.
May 4th, May 9th. I've got May 17th. So got all those dates written down, and I will.
We need to turn in a W-9.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I collect one.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, pastors. It's always a pleasure. I keep collecting my favorite churches in Columbus. So you two know that you're definitely on the top of the favorite list. And so, I keep thinking of what a great memorial service is going to be at 4th Street Baptist Church when the time comes.
God be the glory.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'm so looking forward to it. And so, it's great to be able to plan your death with such joy. And thanks to knowing the two of you, And I know you won't talk too bad about me on the day when it comes.
Nope, not too bad.
Thank you so much. Well, have a good day.
You all
Bye.
too. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.